Hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Phillips with Relationship Marketing System and Now Marketing Group, here to bring you Magnet Marketers, how to become a magnet versus being a bullhorn. And this week's topic, we're excited to dive into how to handle negative feedback on social media, the things that we do not want to happen to us, but sometimes cannot avoid, those negative comments and or reviews that could happen on social media. So how to be prepared and how to handle it if and when it does happen to your business or maybe a client's business. Excited to have Mike Gingrich, as always, as the co-host to Magnet Marketers with me. Mike Gingrich is the co-founder of TabSite, also the podcaster from Halftime Mike, and works at Digital Hill. Halftime Mike podcast is amazing. If you guys have not checked it out already, I know I give it a plug every week because it is just that great. So check it out. And it has a lot of social media tips there and takeaways so you can help adjust your game at the halftime. I love your tagline on that. So Mike, negative reviews on social.
Right.
So has any of your clients or have you guys came across having a negative review?
Two things to say about that to begin with, and that is, number one, it always comes up a lot in potential client meetings. They're frightened about it. So the people who haven't done social media much with their business or just getting started, that seems to be a first forefront kind of fear that they have. And then number two, for clients, have we experienced it? And, on occasion it has happened, and you have to be ready for it and you have to deal with it. And I think that's what we want to, talk about today. Right. Does it happen? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, because it's usually not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And it does come up in those client meetings. I know that's been the biggest fear. We work a lot with healthcare companies, and that's their big fear. They're like, oh my gosh, we don't even want to set up on social because what about those negative reviews? What if they're going to say them? And our feedback to them right then is, don't you want to be a part of the conversation? People are going to talk anyway, but you want to be a part of the conversation to at least be able to defend yourself and show how good your customer service is when those things come up and know about them. So that's the big piece of it, is having that big, chance to be able to at least hear what's being said and be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So what is your first tip on negative reviews if it shows up for one of your clients?
Don't overreact. I think that's the big one. Don't overreact. And there's typically two ways that they can overreact, and one is the temptation to delete it. Okay.
Yes.
So I think
that's hide it. Yeah. Get rid of it. Don't let anybody see it.
Yeah. Can we just get rid of that? And it doesn't go away that easily on digital media. So I think that
people off. They're like, where'd it go?
Yeah. Or the other one is there's a tendency, just depends on the personality style of the business, but maybe it's to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah. What about yourself? What have you guys seen?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, not overreacting first. Definitely do not delete or hide it, because then I forget who says it. I think it's Jay Baer, where he talks about hug your haters. And he says, it's the people that give you the feedback that are the good. It's the ones that don't tell you and put it on your page that is not good. Because you definitely want to know if people have that experience, so you know how to respond. So don't overreact. But I always dig into who left that feedback. So know who you're talking to.
Right.
Look at their profile, investigate. So look at the person's profile that left it. See, who they are, where they're coming from, if it's a troll
right.
or if it's a legitimate concern, and start investigating. Know why, what the concern is, where it stemmed from in the first place.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes the tendency is to react, real quick. And what you said is key in that, a number of minutes between them posting your response is between immediate response and 3 minutes later, 4 minutes later, is not that much time, but it can be critical time for you to get context.
Yep.
by searching that profile, understanding a little bit what's going on, see if there's a backstory that you can figure out,
Yep.
and then being able to respond in a way that's going to be helpful to the situation.
Yep.
So I think that, you definitely don't want to get rid of it, and you definitely want to try to find out information before you respond. And then when you respond, understand that you have an opportunity. You're responding to that individual, and you are responding to your entire social media fan base as well. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's sometimes the fear, but it's also the opportunity.
Yep. Because you are on the PR stage.
Yeah.
And so this is where your marketing turns into PR, it turns into operations, it turns into potential sale opportunity, all in the same arena from a negative feedback. So I would say, to tie off that, once we investigate and see the backstory, the next step is to let them know that whomever left that comment, that you've heard them. Not a canned response, though. Like, stay away from the canned response. That's just going to add fuel to the fire. At least it would for me if I'm leaving a review and somebody's like, well, thank you for reaching out. Please contact our support department, blah, blah, blah. Like, talk human to the person, let them know that you've heard them. And if it's going to take a little bit longer to investigate, then just let them know that to respond.
Yeah, but I think what you said is key. Not a canned response.
Yeah.
But something that is showing that you have heard, and that even if you are wanting to look into it, you can share that. That's definitely better than sorry that you feel that way. Those type of things. Do not be defensive. I mean, think about it just in normal relationship discord. Where there's been a disagreement of some sort, and someone confronts you. This is basically some type of confrontation that just happens to be on social media. And but if you think of it in a personal relationship, when there's that confrontation, if you want to work through that well, if you want to value that person, then you are not going to want to be responding defensively and immediately putting up a wall and saying, hey, well, whoa, what are you talking about? But you're wanting to try to learn a little bit more information. You want to express some type of openness that that person is of value, and that you want to hopefully work this out in a positive way. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's okay to comment a lot of these things publicly, to a point. So like, if you definitely want that, to show your customer service, because and then their response, everyone can see that you've done your due diligence. You see what the situation is. You've talked to the team members that maybe have that backstory, or whomever that has that backstory on why the client's even responding this way. Let them know openly and honestly what happened. And if you messed up, own it. I think just own it, but own it there, and let them know what you plan to do about it, and comment. But if it does not resolve anything, my rule is always like 2 or 3 messages back and forth. And if it's still, and you're doing everything you can in your power, and this person's still kind of not happy, then I'd say, go ahead and respond and say, well, would you mind talking this through offline? But giving them the chance to at least everyone see that you're trying to make this resolved and work with them.
Absolutely. I think it's, I kind of go with the 3 strike and out policy, in that regard too. So
that's a good
it's, you give an initial response, and if they, give another rebuttal, then you can try to handle that again. And, you try to say, okay, I understand that we didn't resolve this well. I'd be glad to talk about this further. Here's a way that you can contact us. Those types of things. I always try to say, try to take it offline. But I do kind of have a, 3 strike and you're out. So I'm looking for ways that I can try to de-escalate it. But if it is escalating, those are strikes then, and hopefully this is a sidebar. Hopefully you have a policy for that social media platform that you've talked about. So for instance, on Facebook, that you can have that somewhere in your about or information on the page that say, hey, this is kind of the guidelines for the page. If you're going to get derogatory, you're going to start swearing at us on the page, we're going to reserve the right to shut you down, kind of thing. And so that's kind of my 3 strike is I'm gonna try. I'm going to show again some effort, and if a third time they just keep escalating, I'm going to say, hey, okay, we've tried. Obviously, this is not working here. This is not the venue for it. You're violating. You're going beyond what our policy is here. I'm going to shut this down. But I'm going to leave that up. Then I might just have to.
Yep.
Because I want the world to be able to see, hey, we went some extra miles here. We tried. We tried. You can see that we were trying to be professional, and we handled it professionally and with tact. We tried to be helpful, resourceful. We tried to offer a solution or a next step, and so I think that goes a tremendous distance to the audience out there when they see that you are, trying to resolve it well.
Yeah. And I always sign off those posts too. Like even if you don't sign off typically all your social posts, which a lot of people do. And what I mean by sign off is put your name at the end. But I like to put the name at the end. So it makes it even more personal. Yeah. That it's not even just the company. It's somebody personally at the company that's like, hey, I am the gatekeeper of this problem. I am the buck stops here with me. I will make sure this gets taken care of. And at that point, like your 3 strikes and you're out. I love that. But usually I've found at that point, a lot of clients will jump in. Like if that brand has really built a good and, happy clientele, a lot of times their other fans will come to their rescue. I see if that person's still beating them down when the company is really trying to make it right. I've often seen that the fans will come to the rescue and say, well, we've never had that problem, and, really jump in and go to bat for that company, which is really cool.
I've got good story and bad story. Do you want to go into those a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that on the bad story side, this one isn't mine specifically, but this is one that has been written about, and that's that Amy's Bakery.
I have a blog on that. Yes, I love that one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
On that one too.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, maybe you need to dig this one up while I'm sharing it a little bit. But they were on one of those kitchen nightmares. Kitchen Nightmares. Mm-hmm. And anyway, they have a Facebook page, and they were kind of known for. They were called out on the show Kitchen Nightmare for some poor food, some bad customer service, even yelling at customers, that type of thing. And so of course people came over and took to Facebook to talk to them about that and basically express it. And so they had an opportunity, and they just did not handle it well. I mean, they went down a bad road. And you know how that when you put caps lock on, I mean, they're like screaming at someone. And so they were screaming back at people and defending themselves, not hearing, not trying to acknowledge anything, but basically duking it back. So, okay, you posted that there. You've got the link on that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's a case study of what not to do, and what can happen, how it can just spiral out of control once you go down the dark side, basically.
Yeah, that was bad. But it's going to show who you truly are when you respond that way. And for her case, it really did show who she truly was. She just didn't care, So now the world can know. It's just going to highlight who you are as a company. So good or bad, if you have good customer service, this is going to highlight that. If you don't and it's negative, then it's going to highlight that as well. So now, that's a really good one.
A different example, and that is we work with a company that is in the building industry. They build commercial facilities, commercial buildings, and they also get into some of those on a residential side, not homes, but residential buildings. This is maybe your storage area where you're going to keep your RV or your boat or your 4-wheelers or those types of things. And so they were posting and sharing one of their new facilities, nice looking facility, and they had a number of comments on it. And but someone posted, something negative and pretty strongly negative, not happy with this company, couldn't resolve my issues, and never do business with them again. And so I knew that the owner of the company, I knew he would be like, what are you going to do? So
Make it
I
stop.
I had my trusty smartphone on me, and the notification went off. I happened to look at it, and I was like, oh no, he's going to be. So I called him then, right away. And he's like, oh, I was just getting ready to call you, So I was right on. I got to him first. And it was one of those cases where, his first thought was, can I delete this? I was like, no, we can't delete this. I said, so let's just walk through this together. I said, and we did exactly what you said a little bit. We looked at the profile, and, in that minute, he was able to tell me, okay, that is an existing customer. And he told me the story. He was like, they wanted to save some money, so they didn't want to use our windows. So they went to the, local big box. They bought windows. They had us install them, but those windows leaked. He said, we went, above and beyond to try to repair that. But he said it was the type of window they chose to use. Right. But he said, we fixed it. He said, I thought for sure that we had that completely settled and she was okay. And then, so I said, all right, so, let's respond. He responded, we talked through it. He responded something to the, sorry to hear that, your issue wasn't resolved. I thought we had, I'd be glad to, follow up and talk about that further. Okay. So that was number one. And, so then she responded, no, I'm not happy with that. And, you guys just didn't do what you said you were going to do, that type of thing. So, so I just coached him through that. And I said, let's, again, this is take two at just trying to take it offline and say, so he responded again, understood that obviously you're not happy with the situation as it is, and we want to continue to work this. If it's not, that was always our intent with this, be glad to follow up with you, and work at this further. So that was attempt number two. And after that, she did not respond further. So she
she's finally satisfied.
She didn't do anything on social media. Yeah. She backed off then. And then he said, now do we delete it? And I was like, no, and this is good. Now I said, she was upset, but we showed, number one, we knew who she was, and that we had thought we'd taken care of the issue, and that we had tried to resolve it. And then when she rebutted again, we maintained tact and, and positive effort, saying, hey, let's follow up with this. Let's see what we can do. Just, thought we'd taken care of it. Obviously we didn't. Let's do it. And, so we left that up there. And I think so that worked out well. Sure. And again, just exactly what you said. We had comments before that one on, hey, I want one of these buildings. I like that one. And then that came in. And then there was comments after that said, hey, the guys over, PageMaker, they've done well for me, and I'm pleased with them. Right. And you get a number of those comments. And so that was just kind of sandwiched in there. And it's a small piece, but it almost speaks, more volumes with the other people that were responding, but
that they would stand up for them.
They did. Yeah. And so that was a positive resolution, that it shows that, you did try, you cared about this, and you're making an effort to that individual, but showing the world that you're making an effort too.
That's smart. On those, I had an almost identical situation with one of the contractors that we work with. And what we did, and what I like to do in those situations is call the client if they know who it is and have that conversation. So then my next post can be, thank you so much for our call, and respond back so people know that you automatically called her. Or that person. So that's what we did. We called and we said, thank you so much for the call. I'm happy that we can, find the solution that best works, for us, and appreciate it. So, but the biggest thing is getting notified when these things are coming up. So, knowing when they come up and then having that game plan. I know you said having that social media policy in place, like knowing how to respond. Have you set up a social media policy before and kind of what it entails?
Yeah, I think that it doesn't have to be overly complex, but I definitely, encourage our clients to set it up and kind of have a guide for walking them through that. But it's just going to say, hey, this is how we want to handle things. These are the things that we're going to allow. These are things that are going to be out of bounds on our page. And, you can say if that's whatever that means for you, if that's going to be swearing, if that's going to be, those hurtful statements or, that type of thing. And just you can even outline, say, hey, we're going to try to resolve things. We are going to try to say if that generally it's going to be best if it's a specific issue that we do take it offline. So you're going to see us do that. You're even outlining some of those pieces ahead of time.
Yeah. I like having that, in place. So there is a game plan. So clients that do get freaked out, when they see a negative review come in, that they know we're just going to follow our game plan, just like a fire plan.
Right.
For your office, you have a fire plan for your social media.
Yep.
Do you remember, this has probably been 3 years ago, I'd say, but I think it was Domino's, that they responded to a negative review that was left on their page. And they had a video that this manager created and publicly created a video and said, I am sorry that we messed up your pizza and I want to apologize, and put that as a YouTube video and then posted it on their page and apologized to this client and then sent them the pizza. And then Domino's ended up making, I think it was Domino's. I want to look it up to be sure, but I believe they made like a campaign after that, out of it afterward, and talking about getting it right. But I thought that was so creative. I'm going to make sure I can search for that.
I'm not familiar with that one. No, I mean, I did think of another one. I mean, Applebee's kind of ran through a spell, maybe it was 2 years ago. And again, just with comments related to that, I think that it's important, and you see this a lot with companies, that, again, social media cannot just be the youngest person, the teenager, the young adult on your crew that is dedicated to that just because they have a smartphone and they use social media themselves. That's not necessarily going to be the best brand voice for your company. So I was talking with another president of a restaurant chain, and they had multiple restaurants. And in one of their locations, that in fact did happen, where it was kind of left to a young waitress, and so she just got in a little bit over her head, with one of these comments. It was kind of it was a community related event and comment, and she just didn't, handle it well. And so then it kind of spiraled in that regard. And so that's just a key to, think ahead, how you're training, how you're delegating. And this is important. This is your company, your brand voice. And so it has to represent you well and be able to respond as you would want them to respond.
Yeah, I've seen where companies have deleted somebody's Facebook review before, too. That's another negative, and they delete it. And then that person takes it to their page and then tags that company in it. That company can't delete it then, and they tag them. They're like, I know you deleted my comment at company X, but here was my complaint. And it just goes to show you're trying to hide the situation. So at that part, you almost look guilty no matter what.
Ramps it up.
It just ramps it up. And now that's on that person's playing field. So now it's on their Facebook page for all their friends to support them. And then your company's really in trouble. So it definitely goes back to the not deleting, know who's going to respond. Don't be defensive. And being defensive also means deleting it, because you're like, go away. I don't want this to show up. And then doing your research, investigating who's leaving this comment or the complaint, and finding out the backstory, and having a game plan to respond.
Yep.
What else do you think?
I was just going to say that what they say, Vegas is the opposite of the internet. So what they say in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so the internet is the opposite of that. Okay. So what happens on the internet is going to stay on the internet. I mean, it's going to be everywhere there. There's going to be someone that captures that. And you think about that all the time. There's somebody puts out a tweet and then they delete it. But lo and behold, 10 minutes later, somebody is posting the screen capture of that tweet. Those things are out there. So it's going to be out there. So by deleting it, you're just ramping it up because it's going to be captured.
Here's the stat that I found from that blog that I wrote about Amy's Bakery, like in 2013. And I actually had the Domino's as the flip side in there. I forgot that I wrote about that there too. So, but it says 15% of people trust advertisement, but over 70% of people trust peer recommendations. So the goal is getting those peer recommendations to keep coming in is going to be part of that review. So whether that be good or bad, those are all recommendations. So keeping those recommendations solid is definitely going to be that boost for the company. So how can companies monitor what's being said? We know Facebook has alerts, but what else do you recommend? Do you have found anything?
Right. Well, I mean, with social media in particular, I think that you need to have some type of monitoring tool. I mean, we've talked about those before, whether that's Hootsuite or Sprout Social or those types of pieces, so that you can monitor that. I think that, and this is a good question that came up in the notes over here. What do you do about some of those other services, such as Yelp? So you need to be aware of your Yelp reviews, to be checking those, to be on the list, to see when they're identified. There was another about Google. Let's see, where was that one? Google local search.
Yep.
When there's
that's a big one, because that one comes up right away.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so you need to be aware of those, trying to work at those. I mean, I know what we recommend for people who have some of those negative ones. What do you get into those with Yelp and with Google Local? And you want to start with what some of your responses have been. How do they work at those?
Yeah. So I've used Yext. It's YEXT, and I can post a link here. And I was actually just talking to someone about this today. Okay, this is to monitor. Okay, and what Yext does, and it's around either $400 a year, or you can pay their monthly cost, which ends up it's a little over $40 a month, which costs a little bit more. It depends if you go on at a partner level or if you go at it as just an individual level. But Yext, what it does is allow you to put your listing up. So all those little listing sites like Yellow Pages and White Pages and Dexnos, all of those with reviews and or maps on it, to get to your company. It submits your site to all of them first and foremost. Okay. So what you want, your address, your phone number, your site, what you would come up for, etc., across the board. So there's one hub to monitor all of those feedback that would be coming in on the ones that you can leave reviews on. Yelp's included, Facebook's included, Google's included, all of them right there in one hub. So it kind of takes the pressure off of feeling like you have to monitor everything.
Go to each one.
Go to each one. And you can respond there, which is amazing too. So it gives you one alert if anything's updated, and it also gives you alerts if there's any new sites that come up. Because what I found the problem has been before is that, like, you register at Yelp, you register at this one, but then there's this other site that pops out of nowhere and you're like, who's this guy? And our site's there and there may be a review left, and it may be a good one, and you feel bad because you haven't even told the person thank you, but so monitor it there at Yext. The other thing I always recommend doing, because somebody had mentioned blogs, right? If it shows up in a blog, is setting yourself up for Google Alerts. So go to google.com/alerts and monitor anything that's being published online as a news piece. Now, you may not catch everything. I've had times with Google Alerts where it doesn't catch everything, but typically that company would, or person that's blogging usually would tag in some fashion so people know who they're talking about.
Yep.
So now, Google Alerts and Yext.
And then, I mean, we always tell people, I mean, you want to try to respond. It's the things that we've talked about here. You want to try to give on all those services where you can reply, you want to not just let those go, but you want to show that you've been active in trying to respond. And, I think TripAdvisor is one that comes to mind. So you might see those out there, and you want to try to respond. You want to try to show that person and anyone who's reading and watching that you're making some efforts to try to correct this, that was important to you. You're trying to do it in a respectful way.
Absolutely.
Then on top of that, what I always recommend is you need to be proactive with your best clients about asking for that type of review.
That's
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, that is good. That's a really good point. You ask
So
them to put it
I
on there. Yeah, that's
yes,
good.
you want to combat
Mhm.
negative with the multiple positives.
Yes. Smart.
And
Yes.
you should know who those people are. I
Hmm.
mean, that's, you can do that if you're, uh,
Hmm.
destination location. You can have those little signs up that can be part of their checkout process, the final email process. Make it easy for them. Click a link and give you a review. Um, find ways to solicit those, to ask for those, so that you are surrounding that with the real picture of
Yep.
your many happy clients.
I'm Trustpilot, I think, is the name of that company that will submit and ask clients for their feedback after you sell them on something. Have you heard of Trustpilot before?
I have heard that name, but I am not
Putting the
right
link in
familiar
here.
with it right off hand here.
I had a call with them a couple weeks ago. It is a paid for service, but they kind of link in your surveys and your reviews. So it gives clients, like if you're asking for a review, because a lot of them will feature it on their website, right? If you get a testimonial or a positive review, you feature it on your website. But Trustpilot gives them the authorization when the clients fill it out to list it on Trustpilot, which then they can purpose it everywhere. They can use it on Facebook. They can use it on their website, Google, all one-stop shop with using it on a Trustpilot.
Yep, yep,
And it's kind of like one of those, I don't know if I want to use the word Angie's List, but Angie's List for reviews. It's legit. So
yep,
if it's a Trustpilot review, you know that it's a review, not just a review signed by John.
yep.
Or like, is that for real? Yeah.
No, I mean, so the key out here today is that with social media, it's a new game. I mean, it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer just you being able to push and put up a billboard, a brochure, a advertisement, a magazine, and let it be. But social is two ways, and there's opportunities with that. I mean, you can go much deeper. You can get your brand message across. You can build better trust. It also does expose you to some more vulnerabilities that way. But these are just skills you have to have. I mean, and again, you talk so much about this relationship marketing, people to people, business people to people. That's what we're talking about here. I mean, if you have some decent relationship skills at working with people, then you're just taking this online for your business in the social realm.
Right. That's it right there. Definitely. I mean, it's just showing how much you care.
Yep. Some value that you want to work at those things, that you're trying to handle it in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to think of another example, like with healthcare. We've had kind of the same thing with reviews, and it's scary when it gets into the healthcare piece. They're like, we just went to go visit mom, and her meds seemed off, blah blah blah. Because then you're kind of restricted to like those HIPAA laws too. So those are the only time I recommend bringing it offline right away.
Right. Yeah.
When you're in healthcare, just depending on
Yeah.
the situation.
Well, I don't know if you guys even ever refer to that. I mean, but I think that can be,
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, due to HIPAA, we need to kind
Yep,
of take this.
that's
I
what we
mean,
do. Yeah,
yeah.
we have.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
well, I know we have some blog resources. Have you? I posted one in here on reviews. I'm going to post a couple others just with some feedback on how to handle negative reviews, both on social and then also with like those Google and Yelp reviews, because they are handled just a little bit different. Because on Yelp, you're a little bit more limited to responding back and forth. So I'm going to post this on here as well. And then there's also an article by Inc. That they wrote on this topic as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that have wrote on it, but these are some of my favorites that I'm going to post in here in the notes.
Okay. And you asked me about the social media policy. How about for clients of Now Marketing Group? Do you guys work with clients and recommend something like that?
Yes. We ask them first, who's our first person to contact? So we set up the policy. So what would consider like things that we are not able to respond back to without contacting someone? Like the common sense stuff, we can handle that, like the ones that are just, give them the feedback, let them know we're going to call them right away, etc. But we ask them, who's going to be our contact person, our main chief, if you will, if something happens, and there's a review that's left, like who's our contact person right away. For the big organizations where you're not just working with maybe one person all the time, like HCF, for example, we work with 28 of their locations. So it's like, who do we contact? Is the administrator able to make that decision, or does it have to go higher up? So we ask them, who's our contact? When do we pull it offline? We get permission, like you said, that 3 strikes, you're out. That's kind of what we've been doing, but not calling it that. I like your analogy with that. And then what's the follow-up like? So after we handle it, do we go back and we circle back and follow up once somebody's made that contact? Because usually if the phone call is made, it's somebody in their office that's making it. And then we have them tell us exactly how they want us to respond in their words. And then we have them committed to a time frame to respond back, because we have dealt with one client who shall remain nameless, that it was like this hierarchy of passing through on getting approval to write this perfect response back. And in the meantime, there's days going by and like we're not allowed to respond back to this situation. And it just looked really bad. And we were like pushing for them. We're like, we have to respond here. We have to say something. And this person just thinks we're ignoring them, so we had to change that because it was really bad.
I think that's maybe something we didn't hit hard enough in this when we're talking about this, but timeliness. I mean, time changes on social media. It is sped up, and you must be. You cannot have layers of bureaucracy with that, and that forces businesses to shift gears and to empower, to delegate, and to make decisions.
Right. I think because we work in it so closely, we know that, but that is a good point of saying that, in this Blab session, because timeliness is important. And now we've mentioned it with Facebook, but they rate you and they tell others how fast you are to respond.
Right.
So that's listed there as like your badge of honor of timeliness on your responses. So you definitely want to make sure, what is the stat? I don't know if you know it on what you're supposed to, or what a customer expects for timeliness in response.
Right. Well, and it does vary a little bit by social media platform, but I think that, I mean, within Facebook, I mean, it's less than 10 minutes. And I think that's even gone down more now that they post that stat. I mean, they're looking for, always responds within 5 minutes, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so Facebook has helped kind of ramp that game up, but the speed time has reduced, and I think on Twitter as well, it's very short. There's a little bit more leeway on some of the Yelp and some of those type of pieces, because there's expectation that it's posted. You're going to have to get back to it, where some of the social media networks are much more real time. And so it has to be taken into account.
That's a good point. Yeah. The last time I read it, it was like 30 minutes or something on Twitter. And Facebook, I know that time, like you mentioned, it just keeps changing and shortening. Thank God, though, for the Facebook messaging where you can say that you're out or we'll be back, and to set up those responses. So at least people know if they send you a direct message in your inbox there on Facebook, that you will get back to them. May be sleeping at that moment.
Now, don't take that for granted. Maybe you should say a little more about that just to the audience there.
Sure. So if somebody is going to message you, which that's always the thank you for sending your complaint or your discrepancy in Facebook message versus publicly displaying it on the profile. But Facebook allows people, if they have this feature turned on their business page, which I recommend turning this on, they can direct message you, and you will get a notification as a message similar to how you would on your Facebook personal profile, the Facebook Messenger. It'll come in that way, and you can reply back, similar like you would an email, but just on Facebook. And inside of Facebook, though, they do have some responses and times that you can set that you would be out or have an auto response kind of turned on. So you can turn that on. I know we said don't do canned responses, but it's okay to tell somebody, hey, I'm out right now, but I'll get back, like between 10 and 9, I'm sleeping or whatever, or our office is closed and we'll get back with you. Whatever you want to say there, but you can turn that feature on Facebook and have that in your messenger.
Yep. Now I got to admit that, our TabSite product is worldwide, and that's been a challenge for us at times is that all of our team is North American based, right? So trying to take care of Asia and Australia is and even Europe at times is somewhat of a challenge when something is 5 to 12 hours time difference, a part of us. I mean, so we always had this kind of window that was a danger zone from, like midnight to 5 a.m. That was kind of that gray zone because a lot of our team was not going to be up past midnight. We weren't really staffing for past midnight. And then, based on early riders, that type of thing. And so, you could get something. It was always that worst nightmare when something comes in from, Australia, for instance, at Eastern time, 1 a.m. kind of thing, and then you're seeing it at 5 a.m., and it was tough. This was, Facebook's given us now some more tools with that, but there was a day when that didn't exist.
Yeah. And it may be good even to put that like on your profile, for some companies, because I know we worked with Proposable, and they had the same exact issue. It was a proposal software, and they had those complaints that came in, and it was like, hey, we need to get this proposal out today, and why aren't you responding to me? And we're like, oh no, we need to put on our time zone. But it wasn't until that happened that we even thought about it, because it was like, we think everybody's in our time zone, or at least in the United States, where it's not a big of a deal. So we had to put that on there. That was, I'm trying to find this video. We did create a video on how to change and customize your Facebook messaging. So I'll put this video on here as soon as I can find it in our notes, and I'll make sure to follow up with all of you that subscribed to this blab and our follow-up blog, that video link in there. So if you do want to customize your messages on Facebook, it gives you just a quick walkthrough on how to do that on our YouTube channel. I just organized our YouTube channel. It's kind of like your desk. Once you organize it, now I can't find anything. So I have to go back and find it.
Okay. Yep. Good.
Well, does anybody have any questions on how to handle social media reviews and or any experiences that you've dealt with in reviews at all, or feedback on social, whether that be good or bad situation? How did it happen, and how did you handle it?
Now, while we're giving people a chance to respond there, do you want to say anything about next week and what we have coming up then?
Absolutely. So let me pull this up here. And so each week we're doing our blab for Magnet Marketers on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Next week, we have, if your website does not have this, you're missing out. And I'm going to post the link in here for you to pre-subscribe. But if your website does not have this, you're missing out. So we pick some of our tools and things that we know that every website should have and break those down to let you know what should be on your website. So I'm really excited about this one. This is one where you're tossing around like, what would be the essential toolbox of things that you need to have?
Yes.
So that is our next live session. I just post the link right here.
Well, I guess we've done a good job. No questions here at this point in time.
Woohoo. I've seen a lot of people subscribe for the replay, so that's awesome. So we'll be sending that out. Go ahead and turn this off. So I hope to see everyone next week for a Blab Tuesday at 4 p.m. on the essentials that your website must have if you don't want to miss out. Catch you